Drake Morrison stood outside La Belle Étoile, the most exclusive French restaurant in downtown Seattle, with his phone pressed so hard against his ear that it hurt. His 4-year-old daughter Melody clutched his other hand, her pink birthday dress catching the afternoon breeze, her lower lip trembling as she tried not to cry. "Please," Drake said into the phone, his voice cracking in a way he hadn't heard since he was a teenager. "I called 3 weeks ago. I confirmed yesterday. The reservation was under Morrison. Table for 2 at 6 o'clock. The hostess's voice came through cold and dismissive. "Sir, as I already explained, we have no record of your reservation. We're fully booked tonight. There's nothing I can do." Drake's chest tightened. This was supposed to be perfect. After the divorce, after Brittany got primary custody, after missing so many bedtimes and school events because of work, this birthday dinner was supposed to prove he could still be the father Melody deserved. He'd planned everything down to the minute. The reservation had been confirmed twice. "Daddy?" Melody's small voice cut through his panic. "Are we not having my special dinner?" Drake looked down at his daughter. She wore the pink dress he'd bought her last week, the one with the sparkles she'd been so excited about. Her curly hair was pulled into 2 puffs with matching pink ribbons. She'd been talking about this dinner for days, telling everyone at preschool that her daddy was taking her to the fanciest restaurant in the whole world. "Just one moment, princess," Drake said, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass. He tried another number. His assistant. "Jennifer, it's Drake. I need you to call La Belle Étoile right now and fix whatever happened with my reservation." "Mr. Morrison, I confirmed that reservation myself yesterday," Jennifer said, her confusion evident. "They acknowledged it. Table 12, 6 o'clock, window seat like you requested." "Well, they're saying they have no record of it now." "That's impossible. Let me call them right now." Drake waited, watching other families walk into the restaurant. A couple with twin boys around Melody's age. An older man with his granddaughter. Every person who walked through those glass doors felt like a knife in his gut. His phone rang. "Jennifer." "Mr. Morrison, I spoke with the manager. He says their system shows the reservation was canceled this morning at 9:42. "I didn't cancel anything. He says the cancellation came from a woman claiming to be your assistant." Jennifer paused. "Mr. Morrison, I think your ex-wife might have done this." Drake's blood went cold. "Brittany. Of course. She'd been furious when the custody agreement gave him Melody for her birthday this year. She'd sent him 12 text messages yesterday, each one more venomous than the last, telling him he'd ruined their daughter's special day just like he'd ruined their marriage. "Can they fit us in any way?" Drake asked, desperation creeping into his voice. "He says they're completely full. No exceptions." Drake looked down at Melody again. She was no longer trying not to cry. Silent tears rolled down her cheeks, and she rubbed at them with her small fists, smearing the light pink eyeshadow he'd carefully applied earlier because she wanted to look fancy like a princess. "Daddy, I want to go home," Melody whispered. Those words shattered something in Drake's chest. "Oh." Back to his empty penthouse where he'd microwave chicken nuggets and watch her blow out candles on a grocery store cake while sitting on his leather couch. This was supposed to be different. This was supposed to be special. He'd built a technology company from nothing. Morrison Tech Innovations had made him a multimillionaire by 32. He'd closed deals with Fortune 500 companies. He'd been featured in business magazines. He had more money in his checking account than most people would see in a lifetime. And he couldn't get a table at a restaurant for his daughter's 4th birthday. Drake tried 3 more restaurants. Each one was somehow fully booked despite it being a Tuesday evening in September. He called in favors from business associates. He offered to pay triple. Nothing worked. By the time he'd exhausted every option he could think of, it was nearly 6:30. Melody had stopped crying and gone quiet, which was worse. She just stood there holding his hand, her sparkly dress seeming to lose its shine in the fading daylight. "I'm sorry, princess," Drake said, kneeling down to her level. "Daddy messed up. But we'll figure something else out, okay? We'll make it special, I promise." Melody nodded, but her eyes were hollow. She'd heard promises before. Promises about making it to her dance recital. Promises about weekend trips to the zoo. Promises that mommy and daddy would try to be friends. 4 years old, and she already knew what broken promises looked like. Drake felt something die inside him as he looked at his daughter's face. All his success, all his wealth, all his achievements meant absolutely nothing in this moment. He was just a failed father standing outside a restaurant he couldn't get into, watching his little girl's birthday dreams crumble. "Let's just go get pizza," Drake said quietly. "Excuse me?" Drake turned. A woman stood a few feet away, clearly having overheard at least part of his conversation. She wore a burgundy restaurant manager's uniform with a name tag that read, Shanice. She was beautiful in an understated way, with natural curly hair pulled back in a low bun and warm brown eyes that held genuine concern rather than pity. "I'm sorry for listening in," Shanice said, "but I work here. Well, I manage the restaurant next door actually. Bella Vista. I heard what happened." Drake stood up, instinctively moving between this stranger and his daughter. "It's fine. We're leaving." "Wait," Shanice said, holding up a hand. "Bella Vista isn't as fancy as La Belle Étoile, but we have good food and I can get you a table right now. No reservation needed." Drake hesitated. The last thing he wanted was charity. But Melody tugged on his hand. "Daddy, can we? Please?" He looked down at his daughter's face, saw the tiny spark of hope flickering in her eyes, and felt his resolve crumble. "That's very kind of you, but we don't want to impose." "You're not imposing," Shanice said firmly. "It's a little girl's birthday. Let me help make it special." Something in her tone, in the sincerity of her expression, made Drake nod. "Okay. Thank you." Shanice's face lit up with a genuine smile. "Follow me." As they walked toward Bella Vista, Melody slipped her hand into Shanice's free hand. "I'm 4 today." 4? "That's a very important age," Shanice said seriously. "That's when you start learning all the really cool stuff." "Like what?" "Like how to be kind even when people aren't kind to you. Like how to spot real friends versus fake ones. Like how to say thank you when someone does something nice." Drake watched this exchange, something tight in his chest loosening slightly. There was no condescension in Shanice's voice, no performative sweetness. She talked to Melody like a real person, not a prop. Bella Vista was smaller than La Belle Étoile, with warm lighting and rustic decor. The moment they walked in, Shanice spoke rapid-fire instructions to the host. Within minutes, they were seated at a corner table that had been set up with a white tablecloth and actual cloth napkins. A small vase with fresh daisies appeared from somewhere. "Our menu isn't as fancy as next door," Shanice explained, "but I promise everything is delicious. Can I make a suggestion? Our chef makes incredible pasta dishes, and we have a chocolate lava cake that most 4-year-olds tell me is the best thing they've ever eaten." Melody's eyes widened. "Really? Really? And if you don't like it, I'll eat it myself and make you something else." Melody giggled, the first real sound of happiness Drake had heard from her in hours. Have you ever watched someone's kindness change everything in a single moment? If this story is touching your heart, please subscribe and comment below with what you would have done in Drake's situation. Your support helps us share more stories of hope and love. Over the next hour, Drake watched Shanice work magic. She didn't just serve them. She made Melody feel like royalty. The pasta came out shaped like little stars. The chocolate cake had a sparkler candle. At one point, Shanice sat down with them for 5 minutes and asked Melody about her favorite toys, her best friends, what she wanted to be when she grew up. "A doctor," Melody said confidently. "So I can help sick people feel better." "That's a wonderful dream," Shanice said. "The world needs more people who want to help others." Drake barely tasted his own food. He was too busy watching this stranger give his daughter the birthday experience he'd failed to provide. When the check came, it was far less than he expected. He added a $300 tip, but it felt inadequate. As they prepared to leave, Melody threw her arms around Shanice's waist. "Thank you for my best birthday ever." Shanice hugged her back, and Drake saw genuine emotion in her eyes. "You're very welcome, sweetheart. Happy birthday." In the car on the way home, Melody fell asleep clutching a to-go container with an extra piece of cake Shanice had insisted she take. Drake drove through the dark streets of Seattle, his mind replaying the evening. He'd been saved by a stranger. Not because of his money or his connections or his business success. Just because someone chose to be kind. Drake had spent years believing that wealth was security, that money solved problems, that success meant control. Tonight, he'd learned he'd been wrong about everything. And somehow, in the midst of what should have been his most humiliating moment, he'd witnessed something beautiful. Not just Shanice's kindness, but the way Melody had responded to it. The way genuine compassion had transformed his daughter's entire night. As Drake carried his sleeping daughter up to his penthouse, her head resting on his shoulder, he made a decision. Tomorrow he'd go back to Bella Vista. He'd properly thank Shanice. And somehow he'd find a way to pay forward the grace she'd shown them tonight. He didn't know it yet, but that decision would change his life forever. Drake returned to Bella Vista the next afternoon, arriving just as the lunch rush was ending. He'd left Melody with his parents, wanting to do this alone. In his hand, he carried a card with a handwritten thank you note and a check for $5,000. It wasn't enough, he knew that. You couldn't really put a price on what Shanice had done. But it was a start. The host recognized him immediately. "Mr. Morrison, welcome back. Are you dining with us today?" "Actually, I'm looking for Shanice, the manager who helped us yesterday. She's in the office doing paperwork. I'll let her know you're here." Drake waited by the host's stand, suddenly nervous in a way he hadn't felt since pitching his first investor. This was different from business. This was personal. Shanice emerged from a back hallway looking surprised to see him. Today she wore the same burgundy uniform, but her hair was down, falling in natural curls around her shoulders. She looked tired, like she'd been up too early or worked too late. "Mr. Morrison," she said, professional but friendly. "Is everything all right? Did Melody enjoy her cake?" "She loved it. She told everyone at preschool today about the magic restaurant, where the nice lady gave her the best birthday ever." Drake held out the card. "I wanted to thank you properly. What you did last night, it meant everything to us." Shanice took the card, opened it, and her eyes widened when she saw the check. "I can't accept this." "Please," Drake said. "You saved my daughter's birthday. You went above and beyond your job requirements. Let me show my appreciation." Shanice looked at the check for a long moment, then carefully took it out and tried to hand it back. "Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the gesture, but I didn't do it for money. I did it because a little girl deserved a special birthday." Drake had expected this. Shanice had seemed like someone with pride, with principles. He respected that. But he also knew something she didn't. "Can we sit down for a few minutes?" Drake asked. "Please? I promise I'm not trying to be insulting or weird. I just want to talk." Shanice hesitated, then nodded. "All right. But just for a few minutes. I have the dinner prepped to supervise." They sat at a corner table, the same one where Drake and Melody had eaten the night before. Up close, Drake could see the exhaustion in Shanice's face more clearly. The kind of tired that came from too many long days and not enough rest. "Tell me about yourself," Drake said. "If that's not too forward." Shanice smiled slightly. "That's a broad question." "Okay, more specific. How long have you worked here?" 3 years. I started as a server, worked my way up to manager last year." "Do you like it?" "Most days." Shanice's smile became more genuine. "I like the people. The regulars who come in every week. The staff, they're like family. The work itself can be exhausting, but it's honest work." "Family?" Drake asked gently. "At home, I mean. You mentioned being a manager. That's a lot of hours." Shanice's expression changed, becoming more guarded. "I have a son, Terrence. He's 6. And before you ask, no, his father isn't in the picture. It's just the two of us." Drake nodded, not pushing. "That must be hard. Single parenting and a demanding job." "We manage." Shanice's tone suggested this topic was closed. They sat in silence for a moment. Drake was used to negotiations, to reading people, to knowing when to push and when to back off. Every instinct told him that Shanice was struggling more than she wanted to admit. "I run a tech company," Drake said. "Morrison Tech Innovations. We develop software solutions for businesses. I started it 6 years ago in my apartment with 2 other guys and a dream. Now we have over 300 employees and offices in 4 cities." "That's impressive," Shanice said, and she sounded like she meant it. "Thank you. But last night, none of that mattered. All my success, all my money, all my connections couldn't get me a table at a restaurant. My ex-wife sabotaged my reservation because she wanted to hurt me, and she succeeded. I was standing there watching my daughter cry, feeling like the biggest failure in the world." Shanice's expression softened. "You're not a failure. You're a father who loves his daughter." "Because of you," Drake said. "You saw a stranger having a bad day and you chose to help. Not because you had to. Not because there was anything in it for you. Just because it was the right thing to do. That's what we're supposed to do for each other," Shanice said quietly. "Help when we can." Drake leaned forward slightly. "Here's what I learned last night. I learned that kindness matters more than money. But I also know that money can be a tool to enable more kindness. So I want to ask you something, and I need you to hear me out before you say no." Shanice's eyes narrowed slightly, cautious but listening. "Let me help you," Drake said. "Whatever you need. Childcare, rent, bills, your son's education. I'm not trying to buy your friendship or make you feel obligated. I'm trying to pay forward what you did for Melody. Please." Shanice was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the edge of the table. Drake watched emotions play across her face, pride warring with practical reality. Why? She finally asked. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Because last night you taught my daughter something I've been trying to teach her for months. You showed her that good people exist, that strangers can be kind, that the world isn't as cold as her mother tells her it is. Drake's voice caught slightly. That's worth more than any amount of money. But if money can make your life easier, if it can give your son opportunities, if it can take even a little stress off your shoulders, then please let me give it. Shanice's eyes were shiny now, tears threatening. I work 2 jobs. This one in a weekend shift at a hotel cleaning rooms. My apartment is in a neighborhood where I'm scared to let Terrence play outside. His school is underfunded and overcrowded. I'm 3 months behind on rent and my landlord is talking about eviction. The words tumbled out like a dam breaking. Every single day I'm terrified I'm failing my son the way my parents failed me. So yes, I need help. But accepting it feels like admitting I'm not strong enough to do this alone. Accepting help doesn't make you weak, Drake said gently. It makes you smart. And brave. You were strong enough to help me yesterday. Let me return that favor. Shanice wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Drake urged. Please. Let me help with your rent. Let me set up an education fund for Terrence. Let me give you the breathing room to focus on being a mother instead of drowning in bills. The silence stretched between them. Drake could see Shanice fighting with herself, her pride battling her love for her son. Finally, she looked up at him, her voice barely above a whisper. Okay. Yes. And thank you. Thank you so much. Drake felt something loosen in his chest, a warmth spreading through him that had nothing to do with business success or financial gain. This was different. This was human connection. Can I take you and Terrence to dinner? Drake asked. Somewhere nice. I'd like to meet him properly, and Melody would love to make a new friend. Shanice smiled genuinely this time. He'd like that. He's always asking me when he gets to have a fancy dinner like the kids at his school talk about. How about Saturday? I'll pick you both up at 6. We'll be ready. As Drake left Bella Vista that afternoon, check still in Shanice's pocket, he felt lighter than he had in months. Not because he'd written a check, he did that often for charity, but because he'd connected with someone real, someone who'd reminded him what actually mattered in life. He didn't know it yet, but that afternoon had planted seeds that would grow into something neither of them expected. Saturday evening arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. Drake pulled up to the address Shanice had given him, a rundown apartment complex in South Seattle. The building looked like it hadn't seen maintenance in years. Graffiti covered the lower walls, several windows were cracked, and the parking lot was more potholes than pavement. Drake's chest tightened as he understood more fully what Shanice had been dealing with. This wasn't just tight finances. This was poverty, the kind that ground people down day after day. Shanice emerged from a ground-floor unit holding the hand of a small boy with bright eyes and a cautious expression. She wore a simple blue dress, nothing fancy, but she looked beautiful. Terrence wore khaki pants and a white button-up shirt that was slightly too big for him, probably handed down or bought with room to grow. Mr. Morrison, this is my son Terrence, Shanice said as they approached his car. Please call me Drake. He knelt down to Terrence's level. Hey buddy. I've heard a lot about you. Terrence looked at his mother, then back at Drake. Are you Melody's dad? I am. She's in the car. Want to say hi? Terrence nodded, his shyness starting to fade. When he saw Melody in the back seat, her face lit up. Hi. I'm Melody. I'm 4. How old are you? 6, Terrence said quietly. That's so old. Do you go to real school? Yeah. 1st grade. Wow. Drake caught Shanice's eye as they got into the car, and they shared a smile. The kids' innocent interaction felt like hope in motion. Drake had chosen a family-friendly steakhouse with great food but a relaxed atmosphere. Nothing too intimidating for the kids but nice enough to feel special. As they drove, Melody chattered nonstop about her preschool, her toys, her favorite TV shows. Terrence listened, occasionally answering her rapid-fire questions. Your daughter is very friendly, Shanice said quietly to Drake. She's never met a stranger, Drake replied. Sometimes I worry she's too trusting. But then I meet people like you and I realize maybe trust isn't such a bad thing. At the restaurant, they were seated at a round booth that fit all 4 of them. The kids immediately bonded over the coloring pages the server brought, their heads bent together as they compared crayon techniques. This is nice, Shanice said, relaxing slightly. I can't remember the last time we went somewhere like this. Tell me about Terrence, Drake said. What's he like? What does he love? Shanice's face softened the way all parents' faces do when talking about their children. He's smart. Really smart. He taught himself to read when he was 4 by watching educational videos at the library. He loves science, especially space. He wants to be an astronaut. That's a great dream. It is. But his school doesn't have a proper science program. They barely have books. He comes home every day and asks me questions I can't answer because I never finished college myself. Shanice's voice held frustration and sadness. He deserves better than what I can give him. You're giving him plenty, Drake said firmly. Love, stability, a mother who works herself to exhaustion to provide for him. That's not nothing, Shanice. But it's not enough for him to reach his dreams. Drake watched Terrence carefully color inside the lines of his spaceship picture, his tongue poking out slightly in concentration. An idea was forming, one that felt right in a way few things had recently. What if we changed that? Drake said. Shanice looked at him. What do you mean? I meant what I said. About helping. I want to set up an education fund for Terrence. Enough to cover private school tuition through high school, then college. Whatever he needs to become an astronaut or a scientist or whatever he decides he wants to be. Shanice's eyes went wide. Drake, that's too much. That would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I have it. Let me do this, please. Consider it an investment in the future. Your son could change the world someday. Let's make sure he gets that chance. I don't understand why you're doing this, Shanice said, her voice trembling. We're strangers. You don't owe us anything. Maybe that's exactly why, Drake said. No obligation, no strings, just one human helping another. You showed me that kindness when you helped Melody. Now let me show it back. Shanice looked at her son, then at Melody, who was now explaining to Terrence about her favorite cartoon. When she turned back to Drake, tears streamed down her face. Yes, she said. Thank you. I accept. For Terrence. The dinner was wonderful. The kids ate their weight in bread rolls and chicken fingers. Shanice and Drake talked about everything from childhood memories to favorite movies to their hopes for their children. There was an ease between them that Drake hadn't felt with anyone since his divorce. As they drove back to Shanice's apartment, both kids dozed in the back seat. Drake pulled into the crumbling parking lot and turned off the engine. Can I ask you something? Shanice said quietly. Anything. Why did you and your ex-wife split up? Drake was quiet for a moment. Because I was married to my work and she was married to my bank account. We never actually loved each other, we just loved what the other person provided. It took having Melody to realize that wasn't enough. Brittany wanted the lifestyle, the status, the country club memberships. I wanted someone who saw me, not my success. We couldn't give each other what we needed. That must have been hard. It was. Still is. Brittany uses Melody as a weapon whenever she's angry with me. That's what happened with the birthday reservation. She knew it would hurt me to disappoint our daughter. Shanice reached over and squeezed his hand. The touch was brief, but it sent electricity through Drake's entire body. Melody's lucky to have you, Shanice said. Don't ever doubt that. Drake helped carry a sleeping Terrence into the apartment. It was small, cramped, with mismatched furniture and peeling wallpaper. But it was clean, organized, and filled with evidence of love. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. Library books were stacked neatly on a makeshift bookshelf. A calendar on the wall had careful notes about Terrence's school events. This was a home despite its poverty. As Drake left that night, Melody's small hand in his, he knew something fundamental had shifted. Shanice wasn't just someone he was helping. She was someone he wanted to know, to spend time with, to support not out of obligation but out of genuine care. That realization both thrilled and terrified him. 3 weeks later, Drake sat in his office overlooking downtown Seattle, reviewing paperwork his lawyer had prepared. The education trust for Terrence was established, fully funded with enough money to see him through the best schools in the country. The payment to Shanice's landlord had cleared, covering 6 months of back rent and future payments. But Drake wasn't done. His assistant Jennifer knocked on his door. Mr. Morrison, the real estate agent, is here about the properties you asked to view. Drake stood up. Send her in. Margaret Chin, one of Seattle's top residential real estate agents, walked in carrying a tablet and a bright smile. Mr. Morrison, I have 3 excellent properties that fit your criteria. Safe neighborhoods, good school districts, 2 to 3 bedrooms. Let's see them. For the next hour, Margaret showed him listings. Drake dismissed the first 2 immediately. Too small, too far from good schools. But the third property made him pause. A 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood called Maple Heights. Good schools, parks nearby, low crime rate. It was modest by his standards but would be a castle compared to Shanice's current apartment. This one, Drake said. I want to buy it. Excellent choice. For your family? For a friend. Margaret's professional expression didn't falter. I'll start the paperwork. Drake knew he was taking a risk. Buying someone a house was beyond generous, it was life-changing. But every time he'd visited Shanice's apartment over the past few weeks, every time he'd seen Terrence doing homework at a kitchen table that wobbled, every time he'd heard Shanice mention being scared of the neighborhood, his resolve strengthened. She'd accepted his help with the rent and education fund with gratitude. Would she accept this? That evening, Drake picked up Melody from his parents' house. His mother cornered him in the hallway before he could leave. Drake, we need to talk about this woman you've been seeing. Her name is Shanice, Mom. And we're not seeing each other. We're friends. His mother, Patricia Morrison, gave him the look she'd perfected over 40 years of motherhood. Friends don't buy houses for each other. Drake sighed. How did you know about that? Your father plays golf with Margaret Chen's husband. Word travels. Patricia crossed her arms. Drake, I understand you want to help this woman. It's admirable. But buying her a house, that's excessive. People will talk. They'll assume things. Let them. Think about Melody. Think about your company's reputation. I am thinking about Melody, Drake said firmly. I'm thinking about the lesson I'm teaching her. That we help people when we can. That kindness matters more than what people think. Patricia's expression softened slightly. I'm not saying don't help her. I'm saying be careful. You don't know this woman's true motivations. I know she works 2 jobs to support her son. I know she helped Melody without expecting anything in return. I know she's one of the kindest people I've ever met. Drake picked up Melody's backpack. That's enough for me. As Drake drove away from his parents' house, Melody asleep in her car seat, he thought about his mother's warnings. They came from a place of protection, he knew that. But they also came from a lifetime of judging people by their bank accounts and social standing. Drake was tired of that world. The next Saturday, Drake invited Shanice and Terrence to his penthouse for lunch. It was the first time Shanice had seen where he lived, and her reaction was careful politeness rather than awe. This is beautiful, she said, looking out at the floor-to-ceiling windows with views of Puget Sound. It's too big for just me and Melody on weekends, Drake admitted. Feels empty most of the time. The kids ran off to play in Melody's room, leaving Drake and Shanice alone in the massive living room. Drake's heart was pounding. He'd closed million-dollar deals with less nervousness. I have something to show you, Drake said, pulling up the listing on his tablet. I bought a house. In Maple Heights. 3 bedrooms, updated kitchen, backyard for Terrence to play in. Safe neighborhood, great schools. Shanice looked at the photos, confusion on her face. That's wonderful, Drake. Are you moving? No. It's for you. The tablet almost slipped from Shanice's hands. What? I bought it for you and Terrence. I want you to have a real home. A safe place. A neighborhood where you don't have to worry. Shanice stood up abruptly, setting the tablet down. Drake, I can't accept a house. That's too much. Way too much. What? Because we've only known each other a few weeks? Because it violates some unwritten rule about how much one person can help another. Because it makes me feel like a charity case, Shanice said, her voice rising. Because accepting money for rent is one thing, but a whole house? That's something else entirely. Drake stood too, moving closer. It's not charity. It's friendship. It's gratitude. It's me using the resources I have to improve the life of someone I care about. You care about me? Shanice's voice was softer now, uncertain. Yes, I do. These past few weeks, spending time with you, talking to you, watching our kids become friends, it's been the best part of my days. You make me want to be a better person, Shanice. Let me do this. Please. Shanice was crying now, silent tears tracking down her face. I don't know how to accept something like this. I don't know how to repay it. You don't repay it. You pay it forward. Someday, when Terrence is grown and successful, when you're stable and secure, you help someone else who needs it. That's how this works. Shanice looked at the tablet again, at the photos of the house with its safe yard and good schools. Drake could see the war happening inside her, pride versus practicality, independence versus her son's well-being. Okay, she finally whispered. Yes, I accept. For Terrence. And thank you. Thank you so much. Drake pulled her into a hug and Shanice collapsed against him, sobbing. All the stress, all the fear, all the years of struggling alone poured out of her. Drake held her, letting her cry, feeling his own eyes burn with emotion. When Shanice finally pulled back, she laughed through her tears. I'm sorry. That was probably inappropriate. It was perfect, Drake said honestly. That night, after Shanice and Terrence had gone home with keys to their new house and a moving date set for the following weekend, Drake sat with Melody on his couch. "Daddy, are Shanice and Terrence our family now?" Melody asked. "They're our friends, princess. But you help family. And you're helping them. So they must be family." Out of the mouths of children, Drake thought. Maybe they are, in a way. Melody smiled and snuggled closer. "Good. I like having a bigger family." Drake kissed the top of her head, his heart full in a way it hadn't been in years. Moving day arrived with unexpected sunshine. Drake had arranged for a full-service moving company, though there wasn't much to move from Shanice's old apartment. Most of her furniture was too worn to keep, so Drake had done something else. When Shanice walked into her new house on that bright Saturday morning, she found it fully furnished. Not with expensive designer pieces, but with comfortable, quality furniture that felt like home. A sturdy kitchen table where Terrence could do homework. A proper bed for both of them. A couch that didn't sag. Bookshelves waiting to be filled. Shanice stood in the living room and cried. Again. Drake was starting to recognize her different types of tears. These were good ones. "How did you know what to pick?" she asked, touching the soft fabric of the couch. "I paid attention," Drake said simply. "The colors you like, the style that fits you. I wanted it to feel like yours, not like something I imposed on you." Terrence ran through the house like a rocket, exploring every corner. When he discovered his new bedroom with its space-themed bedspread and actual desk, he came running back to the living room. Mom, there's stars on my bed. And I have a desk. A real desk." Shanice knelt down and hugged her son, her face buried in his shoulder. "I know, baby. Isn't it wonderful?" Melody, who'd been exploring with Terrence, bounced over to Drake. "Daddy, can we come here all the time now? Please?" Drake looked at Shanice over his daughter's head. "That's up to Shanice." "You're welcome anytime," Shanice said. "Both of you. Always." The next few weeks fell into a comfortable rhythm. Drake found himself making excuses to stop by Shanice's house. Dropping off books he thought Terrence would enjoy. Bringing over dinner when he knew Shanice had worked a long shift. Helping fix a leaky faucet that the previous owners had neglected. Shanice, for her part, started inviting Drake to things. Terrence's school events. A neighborhood barbecue. Grocery shopping, which somehow became fun when she was there to make jokes about overpriced organic vegetables. They weren't dating. Both of them were careful to maintain boundaries. But something was growing between them, something neither wanted to name yet but both felt. One evening, Drake arrived at Shanice's house to find her on the front porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the stars. Melody and Terrence were inside watching a movie. "Mind if I join you?" Drake asked. "Please." Shanice shifted over on the porch step. Drake sat down, close enough to feel her warmth. They were quiet for a moment, just existing in comfortable silence. "I've been thinking," Shanice said finally, "about dreams." "What about them?" "I had dreams once. Before I got pregnant, before I dropped out of college, before life got hard. I wanted to open a community center. A place where kids from rough neighborhoods could come after school. Get help with homework, play sports, have access to computers and books. Somewhere safe." "That's a beautiful dream." "It's a stupid dream," Shanice said bitterly. "Dreams like that cost money. Lots of money. And people like me don't get to dream that big." Drake turned to look at her profile, illuminated by the porch light. "What if I told you people like you are exactly who should dream that big?" "I'd say you're being naive. And I'd say you're being pessimistic." Drake touched her hand gently. "Tell me about it. This community center. What would it look like?" Shanice hesitated, then started talking. Slowly at first, then with growing passion. She described a building with bright classrooms, a gym, a library, a computer lab. Programs for tutoring, art, music, sports. Trained staff who actually cared about kids. A place that could change lives the way hers might have been changed if such a place had existed when she was young. Drake listened, mesmerized. This wasn't just a dream. It was a calling. "How much?" he asked when she finished. "What? How much would it cost? To start something like this?" Shanice laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I don't know. $500,000? $1 million? Like I said, it's stupid to even think about. What if I funded it?" The words hung in the air between them. Shanice turned to stare at him, her eyes wide in the dim light. "Drake, you can't be serious." "Why not? I have the money. You have the vision. Together we could make this happen. You've already done so much for me. Too much. I can't ask for more." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Drake shifted to face her fully. Shanice, these past few weeks have taught me something. Money is just paper and numbers and accounts. It doesn't mean anything unless you use it for something real. This community center, it would be real. It would change lives. Let me help you build it. Shanice's hands were shaking. I don't understand you. I don't understand why you keep doing this. Because you're the first person in years who's seen me as just Drake. Not Drake Morrison, tech millionaire. Not Drake Morrison, whose divorce was in the papers. Just Drake. A father trying to do right by his daughter. A person who needed help and received kindness. He took her hand fully now. Let me do the same for you. I don't want to feel like I'm using you. You're not. I promise you're not. If anything, you're giving me something I've needed for a long time. Purpose beyond profit margins and quarterly earnings. Shanice looked down at their joined hands. If we do this, I need to contribute too. I need to work for it, earn it somehow. I can't just take. Then work with me. We'll form a nonprofit. You'll run it. I'll provide the funding and business expertise. We'll build this together as partners. Partners? Shanice repeated, testing the word. Partners? Drake confirmed. She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then she squeezed his hand. Okay. Yes. Let's build a community center. Together. They sat on that porch for another hour, planning and dreaming. Somewhere in that conversation, their hands stayed joined. Somewhere in those plans, they both realized this wasn't just about charity anymore. This was about connection. About two people finding each other in unexpected circumstances and choosing to build something meaningful together. When Drake finally left that night, driving home with a sleeping Melody in the back seat, he felt more alive than he had in years. He'd built a successful company. He'd made millions. He'd achieved everything society said mattered. But none of it had felt as important as sitting on that porch with Shanice, holding her hand, planning a future that would help children neither of them had met yet. The next morning, Drake called his lawyer. By afternoon, the paperwork was started for the Right Community Center nonprofit. Drake didn't tell Shanice he'd named it after her. That would be a surprise for later. For now, he just wanted to keep building this thing between them, one conversation at a time, one shared dream at a time, one moment of connection at a time. He was falling, he realized. Slowly but surely falling for a woman who'd saved his daughter's birthday and then somehow saved him too. The weeks blurred into months. Drake and Shanice met twice a week to plan the community center, usually after the kids were in bed. These planning sessions always started professional but ended personal, with conversations that ranged from childhood memories to fears about parenting to favorite songs. Drake found himself looking forward to these evenings more than any business meeting. Watching Shanice's face light up as they reviewed architect drawings, hearing her laugh at his terrible jokes, sitting close enough to smell her perfume, these moments became the highlights of his life. Melody and Terrence were inseparable now. Drake had Melody on weekends and he always brought her to Shanice's house. The kids treated each other like siblings, arguing over toys one minute and fiercely defending each other the next. Terrence is my best friend in the whole world, Melody declared one Saturday morning. When I grow up, I'm going to marry him. Drake and Shanice exchanged amused glances across the kitchen table. That's sweet, princess, but you're 4. You might change your mind about that, Drake said. Nope. He's the best. He's nice and he shares and he doesn't pull my hair like the boys at school. Setting the bar high, I see, Shanice murmured, making Drake choke on his coffee from laughter. The community center was taking shape. They'd found the perfect location, a former warehouse in a neighborhood that desperately needed resources. Renovations were underway. Shanice had hired staff, all of them people who genuinely cared about helping kids. The grand opening was scheduled for 6 months away. Drake had never been prouder of something he'd built, even though this time he wasn't the one building it. He was just providing the tools. Shanice was the true architect of this dream. One evening in late November, they were reviewing budget reports in Shanice's living room. The kids were upstairs playing. Drake noticed Shanice rubbing her temples, stress evident in every line of her body. Hey, he said softly. Take a break. You're going to burn out. I'm fine. You're not. When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Shanice looked at him blankly. I don't know. Before Terrence was born, probably. That's 7 years. Shanice, you're allowed to have a life outside of being a mother and working. Says the man who admitted he works 70 hours a week. Touché. Drake set down his laptop. Okay, new rule. We both commit to doing one thing each week that's just for us. Not work, not kids, just something that brings us joy. Like what? I don't know. What do you like? What did you enjoy before life got so busy? Shanice thought for a moment. I used to love painting. Watercolors mostly. I was never good at it, but it made me happy. Then paint. I don't have supplies. And they're expensive. Drake pulled out his phone and placed an order while Shanice watched. There. Full watercolor set will be here tomorrow. Now it's your turn. Make me commit to something. You should spend time with Melody doing something that's just fun. Not educational, not structured. Just play. Deal. They shook on it, and the touch of Shanice's hand sent familiar electricity through Drake's body. He held on a second longer than necessary, and when he looked up, he found Shanice watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Drake, she said softly, can I ask you something personal? Anything. Why haven't you dated anyone since your divorce? In the 2 years since it finalized, you could have met someone. You're handsome, successful, kind. Why stay alone? Drake's heart was pounding. This felt like dangerous territory. Because I haven't met anyone who made me want to try. Until recently. Shanice's breath caught. Recently? Yeah. Drake moved slightly closer on the couch. There's this woman I know. She's incredible. Smart, compassionate, hardworking. An amazing mother. She makes me laugh. She challenges me to be better. And every time I'm around her, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Drake. Shanice's voice was barely a whisper. I'm falling for you, Shanice. I've been for weeks now. Maybe from the first night when you helped Melody. I know it's complicated. I know we said we were just friends. But I can't keep pretending that's all I feel. Shanice's eyes were shining. I'm scared. Of what? Of this being real. Of letting myself care about you and then having it fall apart. Of Terrence getting attached and then losing another person. Of being the gold digger everyone probably thinks I am. Loving someone when you've been hurt before takes courage. If this story is resonating with you, please subscribe and share your thoughts. Have you ever been afraid to take a chance on love? Let us know in the comments. Drake reached out and cupped Shanice's face gently. You're not a gold digger. You're a woman who needed help and accepted it with grace. A woman who works harder than anyone I know. A woman who dreams big dreams and has the courage to pursue them. He paused. And for what it's worth, I'm scared too. Scared of messing this up. Scared of hurting you. But I'm more scared of not trying. I have feelings for you too, Shanice admitted. I have for a while now. But Drake, your world and mine, they're so different. Your parents already don't approve of me. What happens when this goes public? When people judge you for being with me? Then they can judge. I don't care. Drake leaned closer. Shanice, I have spent years caring what people think. Building the right image, making the right connections, maintaining the perfect reputation. And I was miserable. These past few months with you just being myself, that's when I've been happy. Really truly happy. I'm done living for other people's approval. Shanice closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Drake wiped them away with his thumbs, his touch gentle. Can I kiss you? He asked. Shanice nodded, and Drake closed the distance between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, both of them testing this new territory. Then Shanice's hands came up to grip his shirt, and the kiss deepened, months of built-up emotion pouring into it. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Shanice laughed shakily. Well, that happened. Best thing that's happened to me in years, Drake said honestly. They heard footsteps thundering down the stairs. Drake and Shanice quickly separated, trying to compose themselves before Melody and Terrence burst into the room. Daddy? Shanice. We're hungry. Melody announced. Can we have pizza? Terrence added hopefully. Drake and Shanice looked at each other and burst out laughing, the tension breaking into something warm and comfortable. Pizza sounds perfect, Shanice said. As Drake ordered food and the kids went back to playing, he caught Shanice watching him with a soft smile. She mouthed thank you, and Drake's heart swelled. This was it, he realized. This was what he'd been searching for without knowing it. Not just a romantic partner but a true companion. Someone who understood struggle and joy in equal measure. Someone who loved their child the way he loved Melody. Someone who made him want to be better, do better, give more. The pizza arrived and they ate together, the four of them around Shanice's kitchen table. Melody told jokes that made no sense. Terrence explained his science project in exhaustive detail. Shanice and Drake exchanged secret smiles across the chaos. After dinner, as Drake was helping clean up, Shanice caught his hand. Stay, she asked quietly. Just to talk. After the kids are in bed. I'd like that. 2 hours later, children tucked in upstairs, Drake and Shanice sat on her couch wrapped in a shared blanket, her head on his shoulder. I never thought I'd have this, Shanice said softly. A real home, a stable life, someone who cares about me. It feels like a dream. It's real, Drake promised. I'm real. This is real. Promise me something? Anything. Promise me you won't let your world change you. Don't let the money and the status and the expectations make you forget who you are right now in this moment. Because this Drake, the one sitting here in my living room with mismatched blankets and my son's toy cars under his feet, this is the Drake I'm falling for. Drake kissed the top of her head. I promise. As long as you promise not to let fear stop you from accepting what you deserve. You deserve happiness, Shanice. You deserve love. You deserve someone who sees how incredible you are. I promise. They stayed like that for another hour, talking and laughing and occasionally kissing, building something neither of them fully understood yet but both knew was important. When Drake finally left that night, driving home through the quiet streets of Seattle, he felt complete in a way he never had before. Not because of his business success or his bank account or his penthouse view. Because of a woman who'd shown him kindness when he needed it most, and then let him show kindness back. A woman who was teaching him that real wealth had nothing to do with money and everything to do with connection, love, and shared dreams. He was in love with Shanice Wright. Completely, terrifyingly, wonderfully in love. And judging by the way she'd kissed him goodnight, she felt the same way. Drake took Shanice on their first official date the following Friday. He'd planned everything carefully. A quiet Italian restaurant that served incredible food but wasn't pretentious. Reservations under his name, confirmed 3 times. He'd even called personally to make sure there would be no issues. Shanice wore a green dress that made her eyes sparkle. Drake wore a blue suit but left the tie at home, wanting to look nice but not stuffy. When he picked her up, Terrence and Melody gave them matching knowing looks that made both adults laugh. Have fun, Terrence said seriously. But not too much fun. My mom has a curfew. Since when? Shanice asked, amused. Since right now. 11 o'clock. No later. Drake bit back a laugh. Yes, sir. We'll have her home by 11. At the restaurant, they were seated immediately at a corner table with flickering candles and soft lighting. Everything was perfect. And somehow, that made Drake more nervous than any business presentation ever had. You're fidgeting, Shanice observed with a gentle smile. Relax. It's just me. That's why I'm nervous. This matters. You matter. Shanice reached across the table and took his hand. You matter too. To me. To Melody. To Terrence. You matter, Drake Morrison. Over dinner they talked about everything and nothing. Shanice told stories about growing up in South Seattle, the struggles and the small joys. Drake shared memories of building his company, the mistakes and the victories. They discovered they both loved old movies, hated running, and had irrational fears of birds. Birds? Shanice laughed. Really? They're unpredictable, Drake defended. They swoop. You run a multimillion-dollar company but you're afraid of pigeons. Everyone has their thing. After dinner, Drake drove them to Cary Park, overlooking the Seattle skyline. They sat on a bench, Shanice tucked under his arm, watching the city lights sparkle below. I want to tell you about my past, Shanice said quietly. The whole story. You should know what you're getting into. You don't have to. I want to. So Shanice told him. About getting pregnant at 19 with a man who promised to stay but disappeared the moment the pregnancy test came back positive. About dropping out of college with only 3 credits left to graduate because childcare and tuition were both impossible to afford. About her parents disowning her for throwing her life away. About years of struggling, working multiple jobs, barely keeping her head above water while trying to raise Terrence alone. There were nights I went to bed hungry so he could eat, Shanice said, her voice thick with emotion. Nights I cried myself to sleep wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. If Terrence would have been better off if I'd given him up for adoption to a family who could provide more. But you didn't. I couldn't. He was mine. Is mine. And I loved him too much to let go even when I was drowning. Drake pulled her closer. That's not weakness, Shanice. That's the strongest thing I've ever heard. You survived. You did what you had to do. And look at Terrence. He's incredible. Smart, kind, curious. That's because of you. Sometimes I look at him and I'm terrified I'm not enough. That I've failed him in ways I don't even see yet. All parents feel that way. I know I do. Every decision I make with Melody, I second-guess it. Am I too strict? Too lenient? Am I messing her up? The fact that you worry about it means you care. That's what matters. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Finally, Drake spoke. I want to tell you something too. About my dreams. Okay. These past few months, building the community center with you, it's made me realize something. I don't love running my company anymore. I did once. The challenge of it, the innovation, the growth. But somewhere along the way it became about profit margins and shareholder value and things that don't actually matter to me. So what do you want instead? I want to do more of this. More projects like the community center. I want to use my resources and business skills to fund things that actually help people. I've been thinking about starting a foundation. The Morrison Foundation maybe. Partner with organizations doing good work, provide funding and expertise, help scale their impact. Shanice turned to look at him, her eyes shining. Drake, that's wonderful. You'd be amazing at that. Would you help me? Not just with the community center but with the foundation. Be my partner in figuring out where to invest, what projects to support. You see needs I don't. You understand communities I don't. Together we could do real good. You really want me as your partner? In everything, Drake said. Then he took a breath. Shanice, I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, enormous and terrifying and true. Shanice's eyes filled with tears. Say it again. I'm in love with you. Completely. The way you care for Terrence, the way you dream big dreams, the way you make me laugh, the way you see the good in people. I love all of it. I love you. I love you too, Shanice whispered. I've been trying not to. Trying to protect myself. But I can't help it. I love you, Drake Morrison. They kissed under the stars, overlooking the city where they'd both built their lives in such different ways. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through tears. What now? Shanice asked. Now we figure it out together. One day at a time. What about your parents? Your business partners? The people in your world who think I'm not good enough. Then they don't get to be in my world anymore. You're not the one who needs to prove yourself, Shanice. They need to prove they're worth keeping around if they can't see how incredible you are. Shanice laughed, wiping at her tears. You're going to make me cry all my makeup off. Good. I prefer you without makeup anyway. You're beautiful exactly as you are. They stayed at the park for another hour, making plans and sharing dreams. When Drake finally drove Shanice home, pulling up to her house at exactly 10:55, Terrence was waiting on the porch with his arms crossed. 5 minutes early. Acceptable, Terrence announced. Drake saluted seriously. Thank you, sir. Inside, Melody was asleep on the couch with Shanice's neighbor who'd been watching both kids. After paying the babysitter and tucking Melody into the car, Drake stood with Shanice in her doorway. Thank you for tonight, she said. Thank you for saying yes. To the date. To helping with the foundation. To loving me back. Always, Shanice promised. Drake kissed her one more time, soft and sweet and full of promise. Then he drove home, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The next morning, Drake called a family meeting. His parents, his sister, even his ex-wife, everyone needed to know. At his penthouse that Sunday, facing his family, Drake made his announcement. I'm in a relationship with Shanice Wright. I love her. We're building a life together. If you can't support that, if you're going to judge her or make her feel less than, then you're choosing not to be part of my life. I won't allow anyone to hurt her or make her feel unwelcome. His father was the first to speak. Son, we're just concerned about appearances. What will people think? I don't care what people think. I care about being happy. And Shanice makes me happy. Melody adores her. She's a good person, a great mother, and the woman I love. That should be enough. His mother, Patricia, was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. You're right. I've been unfair to her, judging without knowing. If she makes you happy, truly happy, then I'll give her a real chance. It wasn't perfect acceptance, but it was a start. Brittany, his ex-wife, laughed bitterly. I hope she knows what she's getting into. Being with you isn't as easy as it looks. She knows exactly who I am, Drake said firmly. And she loves me anyway. That's more than you ever did. After everyone left, Drake sat with Melody on his couch. Are you okay with all this, princess? Me dating Shanice? Melody looked at him seriously. Daddy, Shanice makes you smile. Like really smile. And she's nice to me and she makes good snacks. I think she's perfect. Drake hugged his daughter close. Me too, princess. Me too. That evening he called Shanice. I told my family. About us. How did it go? My parents are coming around. My ex-wife is bitter, but that's her problem. My sister is happy for me. And Melody says you're perfect. Shanice laughed. I'm far from perfect. You're perfect for me. That's all that matters. I love you, Drake. I love you too. Always. As they talked into the night, Drake felt something settle in his chest. Peace. Contentment. The certainty that he was exactly where he belonged, with exactly the right person. The trouble started 3 weeks later. Drake was in a morning meeting when his assistant knocked urgently on his door, her face pale. "Mr. Morrison, you need to see this." She handed him a tablet showing a tabloid article. The headline made his blood run cold. Tech millionaire Drake Morrison's new romance. Gold digger or true love? The article was vicious. It detailed Shanice's past, her poverty, the fact that Drake had bought her a house and was funding the community center. Every act of generosity was twisted into evidence of manipulation. The article heavily implied that Shanice was using him for his money, that she trapped him with her calculated kindness. There were photos. Drake and Shanice at dinner at the park outside her house. Someone had been following them. Worse, there were quotes from anonymous sources. One claimed to be a former co-worker of Shanice's, saying she'd always talked about finding a rich man to take care of her. Another, supposedly a neighbor, said Shanice was always bringing different men around. All of it was lies. Obvious, malicious lies. But lies printed in a widely read publication. Drake's phone started ringing immediately. Business partners, investors, board members. All wanting to know about this scandal, all concerned about the company's image. His business partner Greg came to his office within the hour. "Drake, we need to talk damage control. This story is everywhere. The board is panicking. Stock prices are already dropping." "It's garbage," Drake said. "Lies from start to finish. That doesn't matter. What matters is perception. You need to distance yourself from this woman, at least publicly, until the storm blows over. Her name is Shanice. And no." Greg stared at him. No. I'm not distancing myself from her. I'm not letting tabloid lies dictate my life. She did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. We're two people who fell in love. End of story. Drake, be reasonable. Your company has a reputation to protect. Investors are asking questions. Then they can ask all the questions they want. But I won't abandon someone I love because of gossip. Greg left, frustrated. Drake immediately called Shanice. She'd seen the article. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice thick with tears. "This is all my fault." "It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Maybe your partner is right. Maybe you should distance yourself until this dies down. I don't want to hurt your business." "Shanice, listen to me. I'm not distancing myself. I'm not running. We're going to face this together." "Drake, they're destroying my reputation. Calling me horrible things. What if Terrence sees this? What if the kids at school use it against him?" Drake's heart clenched. He hadn't thought about that. "We'll protect him. We'll protect both our kids. But we're not letting these lies win." That afternoon, Drake called a press conference. Against the advice of his board, his lawyers, and everyone who claimed to have his best interests at heart, he stood in front of cameras and told the truth. "Recently, an article was published about my personal life. I'm here to set the record straight. Yes, I'm in a relationship with Shanice Wright. Yes, I've helped her financially. And yes, I'm building a community center through a non-profit we co-founded together." Drake looked directly into the cameras. "What the article failed to mention is that Shanice helped me first. When my daughter was having the worst birthday of her young life, when I couldn't get a restaurant reservation despite all my money and connections, Shanice stepped in. She's a restaurant manager who saw a little girl crying and chose to help, expecting nothing in return." Drake continued, his voice strong. "I fell in love with a woman who works 2 jobs to support her son. A woman who has more integrity in her smallest finger than most people have in their entire body. A woman who taught me that real wealth has nothing to do with bank accounts and everything to do with character. The idea that she's using me for money is laughable. Shanice didn't even want to accept my help at first. She did so because I convinced her that accepting help with grace takes strength." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I'm proud to be with Shanice Wright. I'm proud of the work we're doing together. And I will not apologize for loving someone who makes me a better person. If investors or business partners have a problem with that, they're welcome to take their concerns elsewhere. My personal life is not up for debate or shareholder approval." The press conference exploded with questions. Drake answered a few, deflected others, and left with his head held high. The response was mixed. Some praised him for standing up for love. Others criticized him for being naive. His company's stock dipped further. 2 board members resigned. But Drake didn't care. That evening he went to Shanice's house. She opened the door with red, swollen eyes. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. The press conference. "You just made yourself a bigger target." "I don't care. Drake, your company could suffer real consequences." "Then it does. Shanice, I meant what I said. You're more important to me than stock prices or board approval. If standing up for you costs me everything, it's a price I'll gladly pay. Shanice broke down sobbing and Drake held her, letting her cry out all the stress and fear. I love you, she said against his chest. I love you so much. But I'm so scared. Me too. But we're scared together. That's what matters. The next few days were brutal. More articles appeared, some supportive, many cruel. Drake's social media was flooded with comments both praising and condemning him. Shanice's restaurant put her on temporary leave, citing the need to protect the business from negative attention. But something else happened too. People reached out. Dozens of people who'd been helped by Shanice over the years. Former co-workers who knew her character. Neighbors who'd witnessed her kindness. They shared their stories, pushing back against the tabloid lies. A former co-worker wrote an open letter. I worked with Shanice Wright for 2 years. Not once did I hear her talk about wanting to find a rich man. What I did hear was her talking about her son. About making sure he had opportunities. About working hard and staying honest. The woman described in that article doesn't exist. Shanice Wright is genuine, hardworking, and one of the kindest people I've ever known. The tide began to turn. Slowly at first, then more rapidly as the truth came out. Shanice wasn't a gold digger. She was a good person who'd been in the right place at the right time and then accepted help with grace. 2 weeks after the story broke, Drake's company stock had recovered. Not all the way but enough. The board stopped calling emergency meetings. And most importantly, Drake and Shanice were still together. The community center construction continued without interruption. Drake had personally ensured funding, regardless of what his board thought. One evening, as they reviewed progress reports together, Shanice turned to Drake. Why did you really do it? The press conference. You could have just waited it out. Because the woman I love was hurting. Because lies were being told about someone who didn't deserve it. Because standing up for what's right matters more than protecting my reputation. Drake took her hand. And because I wanted everyone to know that I choose you. Every single day I choose you. Shanice kissed him soft and sweet. I choose you too. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That's love, Drake said. Choosing each other even when the world makes it difficult. They sat together in comfortable silence, planning the community center, building their future one decision at a time. The scandal had been a test and they'd passed. Not because it didn't hurt or because it wasn't hard, but because they'd faced it together. 6 months later, the Wright Community Center stood complete. The grand opening was scheduled for a bright Saturday in May. The building was beautiful, bright and welcoming with colorful murals painted by local artists. Inside there were classrooms, a library, a computer lab, a gym, and a room dedicated to arts and crafts. Shanice had spent weeks preparing. Hiring staff, organizing programs, connecting with families in the neighborhood. She'd poured her heart into this place and it showed in every detail. The morning of the opening, Drake found her in the main hall, straightening chairs for the 20th time. It's perfect, he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Stop worrying. What if no one comes? What if we built this amazing space and nobody uses it? They'll come. Trust me. People started arriving an hour before the official opening. Families from the neighborhood, curious and hopeful. Local officials. Press, both journalists and photographers. Business leaders Drake had invited. And Shanice's former co-workers, neighbors and everyone who'd supported her through the tabloid scandal. Melody and Terrence, now 5 and 7 respectively, served as official greeters. Both wore matching blue shirts with Wright Community Center printed on them. They handed out brochures and gave impromptu tours with the enthusiasm only children could muster. This is the library. It has 1,000 books. And computers. And you can use them all for free. Terrence explained to anyone who would listen. My daddy and Terrence's mommy made this place because they love kids, Melody added. Especially kids who need help. Drake's parents attended, to his surprise. Patricia Morrison pulled Shanice aside before the ceremony began. I owe you an apology, Patricia said stiffly. I judged you without knowing you. I let my prejudices cloud my judgment. Watching you build this, seeing how much you care, I realize I was wrong. You're good for my son. You make him happy in a way I haven't seen in years. Shanice's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. And this community center, what you're doing here, it's remarkable. You're remarkable. The ceremony began at 2 o'clock. Shanice stood at a podium in front of a crowd of over 200 people. Drake watched from the side, his heart swelling with pride. Thank you all for being here, Shanice began, her voice only slightly shaky. This community center was a dream I had for years but never thought I'd achieve. Dreams like this require resources and I didn't have them. But then I met someone who believed in this dream as much as I did. She turned to look at Drake. Drake Morrison didn't just provide funding. He provided partnership, encouragement, and faith. He saw what this could become and helped make it real. But more than that, he saw me. Not where I'd come from or what I'd struggled through, but who I was trying to be. What we could build together. The crowd applauded. Drake felt his throat tighten with emotion. This center exists to help children who need it most, Shanice continued. Kids who need a safe place after school. Kids who need help with homework or access to technology. Kids who deserve the chance to dream big dreams, regardless of where they come from or how much money their families have. Every child who walks through these doors will be valued, supported, and given opportunities to thrive. More applause. Drake saw several people wiping their eyes. I'm excited to announce our programs, Shanice said. We'll offer free tutoring 5 days a week. Computer classes. Art and music programs. A reading circle every Saturday morning. Sports leagues. And all of it is completely free to families in this community. The applause was thunderous now. Drake saw hope on the faces in the crowd. Real, tangible hope. Shanice finished her speech and invited the mayor to say a few words. Then it was time for the ribbon cutting. Shanice stood with large scissors at a red ribbon stretched across the main entrance. Drake, Melody, and Terrence stood beside her. Ready? Shanice asked the kids. Ready? They chorused. Shanice cut the ribbon and the crowd erupted in cheers. The Wright Community Center was officially open. For the next 3 hours, people toured the building, signed up for programs, and expressed gratitude. Drake watched Shanice glow as she talked with parents, welcomed children, and explained the center's mission. This was her calling, he realized. Not just the center itself, but this work of serving others, of creating opportunity, of offering hope. As the crowd began to thin, Drake pulled Shanice aside. Can you come outside for a minute? There's something I want to show you. Drake, I need to supervise the... It'll just take a minute. Please. Curious, Shanice followed him outside. The late afternoon sun cast golden light across the parking lot. Melody and Terrence were already waiting there, bouncing with barely contained excitement. What's going on? Shanice asked. Drake took her hands, his heart pounding so hard he was sure everyone could hear it. Shanice, right, the day I met you, I was at my lowest point. Failed father, standing outside a restaurant watching my daughter cry. You saved that night. But more than that, you saved me. You taught me about real kindness, real strength, real love. Shanice's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. These past months with you have been the happiest of my life, Drake continued. Building this center, raising our kids together, planning a future side by side. You make me want to be better, do better, give more. You make everything more meaningful. Drake dropped to one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. Shanice gasped, one hand flying to her mouth. Shanice, right, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you how much you're loved? Will you build a family with me and continue building dreams together? Tears streamed down Shanice's face. Yes. Yes, of course, yes. Drake stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her as applause erupted from the building. The remaining guests had noticed and were now crowding at the windows and doors, cheering. When they finally broke apart, Drake slipped the ring onto Shanice's finger. It was beautiful but not ostentatious. A simple diamond set in platinum, elegant and timeless. Melody and Terrence ran over, throwing their arms around both adults in a group hug. Does this mean you're going to be my dad? Terrence asked Drake. If that's okay with you. It's super okay. And you'll be my mom? Melody asked Shanice. I'd be honored, Shanice said, hugging the little girl close. The four of them stood there in the parking lot of the community center they'd built together, now a family in the truest sense of the word. Drake looked at his future wife, at the children who'd brought them together, at the building that represented their shared commitment to helping others, and felt complete. This was success. Not quarterly earnings or stock prices or magazine features. This, love, family, purpose, and the knowledge that together they were making the world a little bit better. As the sun set over Seattle, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Drake held Shanice close and whispered, "Thank you." For what? For helping Melody that night. For accepting my help. For loving me. For all of it. Shanice smiled up at him. Thank you for seeing me. For believing in me. For choosing me every single day. Always, Drake promised. For the rest of our lives. 6 months later, on a crisp November morning, Drake stood at the altar of a small chapel overlooking Puget Sound. His best man, surprisingly, was his former business partner Greg, who'd apologized months ago for his reaction during the tabloid scandal and became one of Drake and Shanice's strongest supporters. The chapel was decorated simply with white flowers and candles. Drake had wanted something intimate, just family and close friends. Shanice had agreed, both of them preferring meaningful over extravagant. Music began and Drake's heart started racing. First came Melody and Terrence, both dressed in their wedding party outfits. Melody wore a yellow flower girl dress and carried a basket of rose petals. Terrence wore a blue suit and carried the rings on a small pillow. They walked down the aisle together, Melody throwing petals with great enthusiasm while Terrence tried to maintain proper ring-bearer dignity. Then the music changed and Shanice appeared. She wore a simple red dress, nothing like the elaborate wedding gowns in magazines. But to Drake, she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Her natural hair was styled in elegant curls, and she carried a small bouquet of white roses. Her smile was radiant. Shanice's mother walked beside her, the two having reconciled in recent months after years of estrangement. Drake knew that reconciliation had been hard-won and meant the world to Shanice. As Shanice reached the altar and her mother sat down, Drake took her hands. He was vaguely aware of the officiant beginning the ceremony, but mostly he was just looking at Shanice, memorizing this moment. When it came time for vows, Shanice went first. Drake Morrison, I never believed in fairy tales. My life taught me that princes didn't exist, that magic wasn't real, that happy endings were for other people. Then I met you. You showed up desperate and determined to give your daughter a good birthday. You looked at me, a stranger, and saw someone worth knowing. Someone worth helping. Someone worth loving. Shanice's voice caught. You took my biggest dream and helped make it real. You love my son like he's your own. You make me laugh. You challenge me to be better. You showed me that happy endings do exist, they just don't look like the storybooks. They look like this, two imperfect people choosing to build something beautiful together. Shanice took a breath. I promise to love you always. In success and struggle. In joy and hardship. I promise to be your partner, your friend, your biggest supporter. I promise to help you stay grounded when the world gets crazy. I promise to make you laugh when life gets too serious. And I promise to never stop being grateful that you walked into my restaurant that night and let me help. Because helping you brought me everything I didn't know I needed. Drake had to wipe his eyes before starting his own vows. Shanice, right, you saved my life. I don't mean that metaphorically. Before I met you, I was drowning in success that meant nothing. I had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. I was failing the one person who needed me most. My daughter. Then you appeared, this incredible woman who saw a problem and fixed it without hesitation, without expecting anything in return. You showed me what real strength looks like. What real kindness means. Drake squeezed her hands gently. You taught me that accepting help isn't weakness. That love doesn't come with conditions. That the best things in life can't be bought, they have to be built, one choice at a time. You trusted me with your heart, your son, your dreams. That trust is the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. I promise to love you fiercely. To defend you always. To support your dreams as enthusiastically as you support mine. I promise to be the father Terrence deserves and the partner you need. I promise to never let money or success or anyone's opinion matter more than us, our family, our values. I promise to keep choosing you every single day for the rest of my life. Because loving you is the easiest and best decision I've ever made. There wasn't a dry eye in the chapel. Even Drake's father was wiping at his face. The officiant smiled warmly. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Drake, you may kiss your bride. Drake pulled Shanice close and kissed her as applause and cheers filled the small chapel. Melody and Terrence jumped up and down, clapping. It was perfect. The reception was held at a restaurant, not Bella Vista but a larger venue that could accommodate their 100 guests. Drake had insisted on keeping the guest list small, but somehow, small, had still meant 100 people when you combined family, friends, business associates and half the staff from the Wright Community Center. During dinner, Drake's father stood to give a toast. I'll be honest, when my son first told me about Shanice, I had reservations. I worried about his reputation, his business, what people would think. I was wrong. Watching these two together, seeing the family they've built, the good they're doing in the world, I realized that Shanice is exactly what Drake needed. She keeps him grounded. She makes him happy. She's turned him into an even better father and a better man. Shanice, welcome to the family. We're lucky to have you. Patricia Morrison dabbed at her eyes as she raised her glass. To Drake and Shanice. May your love continue to inspire us all. Shanice's mother gave the next toast, her voice shaky with emotion. I made mistakes with my daughter. I let my pride and judgment create a distance between us. But Shanice never gave up on me. She kept reaching out, kept loving me even when I didn't deserve it. That's who she is. Someone who loves completely, who forgives generously, who believes in people. Drake, you're getting the best person I know. Take care of her heart. Always, Drake promised. The toasts continued, each one making both Drake and Shanice cry happy tears. Then it was time for their first dance. They'd chosen an old song, one about enduring love and standing by each other through everything. As they swayed together, Shanice whispered, "Is this real? Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life." It's real. We're real. This is our forever, starting today. I love you, Drake Morrison. I love you too, Shanice Morrison. Hearing her say his last name sent a thrill through Drake. She was his wife, his partner, his everything. After their dance, Melody and Terrence joined them on the dance floor, both kids laughing as Drake spun them around. Other guests joined in, and soon the floor was full of people celebrating love and family. Later in the evening, as things wound down, Drake found himself standing with Shanice on a balcony overlooking the city. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "What are you thinking?" Drake asked. "I'm thinking about that night at La Belle Étoile. If your reservation hadn't been cancelled, if I hadn't overheard you, if I'd decided to mind my own business, none of this would have happened." Butterfly effect, Drake said. One small act of kindness changed everything. It really did. Shanice turned to face him. "Thank you for seeing me that night. For seeing past the uniform and the small restaurant and the obvious difference in our circumstances. Thank you for accepting my help and then helping me back. Thank you for loving not just me but Terrence too. Thank you for making all my dreams come true. You made my dreams come true too. I just didn't know what I was dreaming of until I met you." They kissed as the city lights sparkled below them, two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way and built something beautiful. The next morning, Drake and Shanice left for their honeymoon, a week in Hawaii. The kids stayed with Drake's parents, who'd become devoted grandparents to both children. When they returned, they moved into a new house together. Not Drake's penthouse, which had always felt cold, and not Shanice's house, which was too small for their blended family. They bought a home in a quiet neighborhood, big enough for everyone but not ostentatious. A real family home with a yard for the kids and a porch where they could sit together in the evenings. The Wright Community Center thrived. Within 6 months of opening, over 300 children were enrolled in programs. Test scores improved. Kids gained confidence. Parents found resources and support. Shanice's vision was becoming reality. Drake scaled back his involvement with Morrison Tech Innovations, transitioning to an advisory role rather than day-to-day operations. He launched the Morrison Foundation, dedicating himself to funding projects like the community center. Shanice became his co-director, and together they began identifying needs and supporting solutions all over Seattle. 1 year after their wedding, Drake and Shanice stood in the community center for Melody's 5th birthday party. Unlike that first birthday, this one was full of friends. Kids from Melody's school, kids from the center, Terrence and his friends. The room buzzed with laughter and joy. "Happy birthday, princess," Drake said, hugging his daughter. "This is my best birthday ever," Melody declared. "Even better than the Magic Restaurant." "The Magic Restaurant was pretty special though," Drake said. "That's where I met Shanice." "That's where you met my mom," Melody corrected. Because that's what she called Shanice now. Mom. Shanice joined them, wrapping her arms around both Drake and Melody. "What are you two talking about?" "How that restaurant was magic," Melody said. "Because it brought us all together." "It really was magic," Shanice agreed, kissing Drake softly. "The best kind of magic. The real kind." As the party continued around them, Drake looked at his wife, his children, the community center they'd built, and felt profound gratitude. Not for his money or his success or his business achievements, but for a canceled reservation, an overheard conversation, and a woman brave enough to offer help to a stranger. That single act of kindness had rippled outward, changing lives in ways neither of them could have predicted. Drake's life was better. Shanice's life was transformed. 2 children had gained parents who loved them unconditionally. A whole community had gained a resource that would serve families for generations. And it all started because one woman chose to be kind when she didn't have to be. "Thank you," Drake whispered to Shanice. "For what?" "For everything. For that first night. For accepting my help. For loving me. For building this life with me. For being you." Shanice smiled, That same warm smile that had first captured his attention in the parking lot of La Belle Étoile. "Thank you for seeing me. For choosing me. For loving me exactly as I am. Always," Drake promised. "Forever." And as Melody blew out her candles, surrounded by family and friends in a community center built on hope and love, Drake knew he'd found something more valuable than any amount of money could buy. He'd found home. Not a place but a person. A family. A purpose. He'd found everything that mattered. And it all started with a canceled reservation and a kind stranger who changed everything.